In the alley, the injured CEO begged, "Please don't hurt me. I can't walk," as her attacker approached. That's when the single dad with his daughter stepped out of the shadows and everything changed forever. The woman's voice trembled through the damp, narrow alley, sharp with desperation and fear. Rainwater glistened on the cracked pavement, pooling beneath her trembling body. Her white designer suit was torn and mud-stained, her blonde hair clinging to her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. Her left ankle was badly swollen, twisted at an unnatural angle from her fall during the chase. The man looming over her was David Langston, her former fiancé and business partner. His face was twisted with rage as he stepped closer, fists clenched. "You think you can just run away with those files, Isabel? You think you can destroy everything we built?" "Please," she whimpered, clutching a laptop against her chest like a shield. "I won't tell anyone about the fraud. Just let me go." David's laugh was cold and cruel. "Oh, you're not telling anyone anything. Ever." That's when Tyler Ford appeared at the mouth of the alley, his 6-year-old daughter Lily, wrapped in a yellow raincoat in his arms. Tyler was tall and broad-shouldered, his clothes worn but clean, his boots heavy from his job repairing washing machines in the city's poorest neighborhoods. When he heard the woman's terrified plea, he stopped cold. "Daddy, is she going to die?" Lily whispered, her wide eyes taking in the scene. Tyler set his daughter down gently behind him. "Stay here, sweetheart. Don't move." Without hesitation, he stepped into the alley. His voice rang out low and commanding, carrying the authority of someone who'd spent years running toward danger instead of away from it. "Step away from her, now!" David whirled around, startled. For a moment, the two men sized each other up. David in his expensive suit and Italian leather shoes, Tyler in his work clothes and steel-toed boots. David saw a nobody, a working-class nobody who should mind his own business. Tyler saw a predator who needed to be stopped. "Walk away, friend," David sneered. "This is between me and my fiancé, family business." "Not anymore," Tyler replied, his voice steady as steel. There was something in his eyes that made David take an involuntary step backward. Not rage, not fear, but the quiet certainty of a man who'd pulled children from burning buildings and knew exactly what real danger looked like. David hesitated, then apparently decided this blue-collar nobody wasn't worth the risk. With a final venomous look at Isabel, he turned and disappeared into the shadows. Tyler knelt beside the injured woman, his voice gentle now. "You're safe. I've got you." Isabel stared up at him through her tears, unable to speak. She was Isabel Monroe, CEO of Monroe Tech Solutions, worth $47 million. And she'd just been saved by a man whose entire paycheck probably wouldn't cover her weekly spending. The irony wasn't lost on her, even through the shock and pain. What she didn't know was that Tyler Ford had secrets of his own. Tyler carried Isabel through the rain-slicked streets to his third-floor apartment, in a building that had seen better decades. The elevator was broken, as usual, so he climbed the stairs carefully, Lily trailing behind with her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. "It's not much," Tyler said as he settled Isabel onto his worn couch. "But you're safe here." The apartment was small but immaculately clean. Every surface was dusted, every corner swept. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator in a riot of crayon colors. The furniture was second-hand but well-maintained, and despite the cramped quarters, there was something indefinably warm about the space. Lily appeared in the doorway, studying Isabel with the serious expression only children can master. "Daddy, why is she crying like me when I miss Mommy?" Tyler's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Isabel felt something pierce her chest at the child's innocent question. She turned her face away, overwhelmed by emotions she couldn't name. "She's had a hard day, honey," Tyler said softly. "Sometimes grown-ups cry too." As Tyler disappeared into the kitchen to make tea, Isabel studied her surroundings more carefully. The apartment was tiny, maybe 800 square feet total, but it was organized with military precision. Books were arranged by height on makeshift shelves. Tools were sorted and stored in labeled containers. There was a small workspace near the window, where Tyler obviously did repair work, every tool in its designated place. But it was the framed certificates on the wall that caught her attention. Emergency medical technician, fire safety instructor, hazardous materials specialist. And there, partially hidden behind Lily's artwork, something that made her breath catch. Fire Department Medal of Valor. Tyler Ford wasn't just a washing machine repairman. He was a trained emergency responder who'd left that life behind for reasons she could only guess at. When Tyler returned with steaming tea, Isabel was studying a photograph on the side table. A beautiful woman with dark hair and Tyler's same gentle eyes, holding a baby Lily. "My wife, Emma," Tyler said quietly, following her gaze. "Cancer took her 2 years ago. Everything changed after that." "You were a firefighter," Isabel said. It wasn't a question. Tyler nodded, setting the tea beside her. "For 8 years, I was good at it too. But when Emma got sick," he trailed off, focusing on unwrapping a bandage for her ankle. "Some things matter more than glory." As he gently examined her injured foot, Isabel found herself really looking at him for the first time. His hands were gentle but sure, with the competence of someone who'd treated trauma injuries under pressure. There was a long scar running up his left forearm, and she found herself wondering about the story behind it. "This needs proper medical attention," Tyler said, "but I can stabilize it for tonight. You should see a doctor tomorrow." "I can't," Isabel said quickly. "If I go to a hospital, they'll find me. David has connections everywhere." Tyler looked at her sharply. "What kind of trouble are you in?" For a moment, Isabel considered deflecting. She was used to guarding her secrets, protecting her vulnerabilities, but there was something about Tyler's calm presence that made her want to tell the truth. "I'm the CEO of a tech company," she said. "Was anyway. My fiancé and I were business partners, but I discovered he's been embezzling millions through shell companies and fake contracts. When I threatened to expose him, She gestured vaguely at her torn clothes and swollen ankle. Tyler's expression didn't change. "The laptop you're holding, that's evidence. Everything, financial records, emails, bank transfers, enough to put him away for 20 years. Isabel's grip tightened on the computer. "But David has friends in law enforcement, judges on his payroll. If I surface too soon, this disappears, and so do I." "Then you stay here until we figure out a better plan," Tyler said simply. Isabel stared at him. "You don't understand. This man has killed people. Being around me puts you and your daughter in danger." "Let me worry about that." Tyler's voice carried a quiet authority that brooked no argument. "I've handled dangerous situations before." What Isabel didn't know was just how qualified Tyler Ford was to handle dangerous situations. After Emma's diagnosis, he'd left the fire department, but maintained his emergency response certifications. He taught safety courses for the city, consulted on emergency preparedness for local businesses, and maintained contacts throughout law enforcement and emergency services. His modest apartment was a carefully constructed cover for a man who chose to live under the radar, but had never lost the skills that made him formidable. More importantly, Tyler Ford had something David Langston didn't expect: a network of people who owed him favors and a code of ethics that made him impossible to buy. The next morning, Isabel woke to the sound of quiet conversation from the kitchen. Tyler was on the phone, his voice low but urgent. "Marcus, I need a favor. Big one. No, not a repair job. I've got someone who needs protection and legal help. Corporate fraud, embezzlement, possibly worse. I can't bring her to you, they'll be watching." "Okay. Yeah, I remember where that is. 1 hour." When Tyler emerged from the kitchen, he was dressed differently. Gone were the worn work clothes, replaced by dark jeans and a clean button-down shirt. He looked less like a maintenance worker, and more like what he really was: a highly trained professional who'd chosen a simpler life. "Who was that?" Isabel asked. "Marcus Webb. He's a corporate attorney, specializes in white-collar crime. We served together on the Emergency Response Task Force a few years back." Tyler checked his watch. "He's agreed to meet us somewhere safe." "Tyler, I can't pay attorney fees. David froze all my accounts yesterday." Tyler gave her a look that was almost amused. "You think I'd let money stop me from doing the right thing?" An hour later, they were in the back room of a small coffee shop in a neighborhood Isabel had never seen. Marcus Webb was a thin, sharp-eyed man in his 40s who radiated competence despite his casual appearance. "Tyler filled me in on the basics," Marcus said, studying the files Isabel had copied onto thumb drives. "This is extensive: financial fraud, money laundering, possibly racketeering. You've got enough here to bring down Langston and probably half a dozen other people." But David has connections, Isabel said. He's paid off judges, has friends in the DA's office. Marcus smiled grimly. Local connections don't mean much when the FBI gets involved, and with this much evidence of interstate fraud, this becomes a federal case whether your boyfriend likes it or not. Ex-boyfriend, Isabel corrected. Good, because he's about to become a federal prisoner if we play this right. Marcus leaned back in his chair. The question is whether you want to go public as a whistleblower or stay in the background while the investigation proceeds. What's the difference? Whistleblower protection, possible financial rewards, but also a target on your back until Langston and his people are arrested. Background witness means you stay hidden, but you also don't have official protection. Tyler spoke up. How long until arrests happen? With evidence this solid, FBI could have warrants within 48 hours, but there's always risk of flight or retaliation in that window. Isabel felt fear creep up her spine again. David won't just run, he'll come after me. Not if he can't find you, Tyler said calmly. And not if he's too busy dealing with other problems. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? Tyler was quiet for a moment, his mind working through possibilities with the systematic approach of someone trained in crisis management. David Langston thinks he's hunting a helpless victim. He doesn't know he's actually hunting someone under the protection of people who are very good at making problems disappear. What kind of people? Isabel asked. Tyler's smile was grim. The kind who run toward danger for a living. That afternoon, Tyler made a series of phone calls to someone named Agent Collins at the FBI field office, to Detective Lisa Chen, who worked financial crimes for the city police, to Jake Harrison, who ran a private security firm staffed entirely by ex-military and former emergency responders. Each conversation was brief, professional, and ended with the same phrase. I'm calling in that favor now. By evening, Isabel understood she'd stumbled into something much larger than one good Samaritan helping a stranger. Tyler Ford had spent 8 years building relationships with people whose job it was to protect society from predators like David Langston. And all of those people remembered that Tyler Ford was the kind of man who'd risk his life to save a child from a burning building. Why are you doing this? Isabel asked as they sat in his apartment that night, Lily asleep between them on the couch. Because it's right, Tyler said simply, and because I've seen what happens when good people stand by and let bad people win. But the risk. Tyler looked at his sleeping daughter, then back at Isabel. Lily's going to grow up in whatever world we leave her. I want it to be a world where people like David Langston face consequences for their actions. The next morning, everything changed. FBI agents served simultaneous warrants at David Langston's office, his apartment, and the offices of 3 shell companies. Detective Chen's financial crimes unit froze accounts containing over $12 million in laundered funds. Jake Harrison's security team began discreet surveillance of anyone who'd made threats against potential witnesses. And David Langston discovered that the helpless woman he'd terrorized in an alley had disappeared into a network of protection he couldn't penetrate, bribe, or intimidate. Tyler's phone rang constantly. Updates from Marcus about the federal investigation, check-ins from Agent Collins about potential threats, confirmation from Harrison's team that known associates of Langston were being monitored. He's desperate, Harrison reported during a secure call. Langston's been reaching out to some very ugly people, offering serious money for information about the woman with the files. But nobody's talking. Word's gotten around about who she's under protection of. What word? Tyler asked. Harrison's chuckle was grim. That anyone who messes with this witness is going to have problems with about 200 cops, firefighters, paramedics, and ex-military spread across 3 counties. Turns out you've got quite a reputation in certain circles, Ford. Isabel, listening from across the room, felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Complete safety. Not the artificial security of money or power, but the real protection that came from people who chose to stand between darkness and light, because it was simply who they were. 3 days later, David Langston was arrested at his country club, trying to board a private jet to the Cayman Islands with 2 suitcases full of cash and a falsified passport. The FBI had been tracking his movements since the moment Marcus Webb made his first phone call. The arrest was front-page news. Tech CEO embezzles millions, flees country. Dozens of investors and employees who'd lost money in David's schemes came forward with additional evidence. The man who'd seemed untouchable 72 hours earlier was being held without bail, facing federal charges that would keep him in prison for the rest of his life. "It's over," Tyler told Isabel as they watched the news coverage. "He can't hurt you anymore." But Isabel wasn't watching the television. She was watching Tyler, who'd returned to his worn work clothes and was fixing Lily's broken toy with the same calm competence he brought to everything. She was watching Lily, who'd made Isabel a welcome home card with stick figures of their little family under a rainbow. "I need to ask you something," Isabel said. Tyler looked up from the toy. "The apartment Marcus found for me across town. I know it's safe, and I know I should probably take it to start rebuilding my life." She paused, gathering courage. "But what if I don't want to leave?" Tyler's hand stilled on the toy. "Isabel, I know it's complicated. I know I come from a different world. But these past few days, living here with you and Lily, have been the happiest I've ever been." She gestured around the tiny apartment. "I've never felt more at home anywhere." Lily looked up from her coloring. "Are you staying?" she asked hopefully. "I drew you in all my pictures now." Isabel felt tears prick her eyes. "If your daddy says it's okay." Tyler set down the toy and looked at her seriously. "Are you sure? Your old life, your company, your money?" "My company is being liquidated to pay back investors David robbed. The money was never really mine anyway. Most of it came from his illegal schemes. And my old life." Isabel shook her head. "I don't want it back. I want this." Tyler studied her face for a long moment. "This isn't temporary shelter anymore. If you stay as family." "Is that what I am?" Isabel asked softly. Lily jumped up from her coloring and threw her arms around Isabel. "You're my maybe mom. I've been waiting so long for a maybe mom." Tyler's smile was soft and real. "Then I guess it's time to make it official." 6 months later, Tyler Ford, licensed emergency response consultant and small appliance repair specialist, married Isabel Monroe, former CEO and current director of the nonprofit Lilly Foundation for Domestic Violence Prevention, in a small ceremony attended by cops, firefighters, federal agents, and one very excited flower girl who insisted on throwing petals from every single drawing she'd ever made. The foundation was funded entirely by the recovery of assets from David Langston's criminal enterprise. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit had tracked down over $30 million in stolen funds, which the court awarded to victims of Langston's schemes and to organizations supporting people fleeing domestic violence and corporate abuse. David Langston himself was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. During the trial, 14 other victims came forward with testimonies about his pattern of financial and physical abuse. The judge noted that without the brave actions of one witness and the network of protection that kept her safe, dozens of other victims would never have found justice. Tyler never went back to the fire department, but he didn't need to. His consulting work expanded as word spread about his crisis management skills. He specialized in helping organizations prepare for emergencies, and his reputation for integrity and competence brought in more work than he could handle. More importantly, he'd helped create something lasting. The network of protection that had saved Isabel became a formal organization, a rapid response system for people fleeing domestic violence or corporate retaliation. Cops, firefighters, social workers, attorneys, and security professionals who were tired of watching bad people win. They called it the Ford Network, though Tyler insisted it should have been named something else. "Why Ford?" Isabel asked one evening as they sat on the couch, Lily asleep between them after another successful day at elementary school. "Because," Tyler said, "you showed us that one person willing to step into the darkness can change everything. The rest of us just learned to follow your lead." Isabel smiled, thinking about the terrified woman in the alley who'd begged a stranger not to hurt her. That woman had been broken, helpless, alone. This woman was surrounded by people who'd chosen to stand with her against the darkness. Sometimes the best families aren't the ones you're born into. Sometimes they're the ones you build, one act of courage at a time. And sometimes the most unlikely hero is a man who fixes washing machines and teaches his daughter that colors make everything better, but never forgot that real protection comes from people willing to step into the shadows when someone needs help. The Ford network helped over 200 people in its first year. Tyler kept a photo on his desk of every person they had protected, but the one in the center was always the same: a woman with blonde hair and a man with gentle eyes, holding a little girl between them, all three of them smiling in front of a rainbow drawn in crayon. Under the photo, in Lily's careful handwriting, was a caption that said everything: "My forever family."